afternoon, good evening, good morning. I say this all the time because we have 7 continents in the world, different time zones, Central American time, Eastern Standard Time, Greenwich Meridian time, Pacific time. We can go on and on. Some of you are just waking up. Some of you are around midday. Some are sleeping. People in the Far East are way asleep, getting ready to wake up. Welcome to Atlantic Discuss. My name remains Adebalogun. I remain your anchor and moderator. Every time we try and come with a topic that will always interest our people, people in Africa, people in Europe. Today, we still have something to talk about Nigeria, but we're focusing more on the Nigerian diaspora contingent. We have here somebody that can help us shed light on it. The topic is just simple. It's a very simple one. How can the Nigerian diaspora contingent work well with the Nigerian government? How can they synergize? We've said it before, the largest concentration of Black people anywhere in the world, on the planet, is Nigeria. 1 out of every 4 sub-Saharan African is a Nigerian. Some will even tell you that 1 out of every 6 Black people in the whole world is a Nigerian. India recently just became the most populous country in the world. A lot of similarity with Nigeria, a lot of diversity, religious diversity, ethnic diversity. Now they want to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. It does look like America is backing them, and they might get it. They are now an economic power, nuclear superpower. The things Nigeria call hurdles, obstacles like ethnicity and religion, India has used it to their advantage. There are more poor people in Nigeria than you have in India. Both are Commonwealth countries. And I will say, if there's any progress to be made in Nigeria, Nigeria should shadow India. Nigeria should look at the Indian constitution. There's never been a coup in India. That's why I always like to compare. So today we have our friend, Dr. Kenneth Gbande. I call him Senator in waiting, if their lordship pleases. He was the former senatorial candidate of ADC in Delta North. It's not new to you. He's based in Germany. He has been president of Nigerian Diaspora Organization, probably one of the longest serving presidents. He's very influential in Europe. He's serving people in Delta North, serving people in Nigeria. He's serving people in Germany. He's a member of the Diasporan Assembly. He's well connected. So he will know, and I'm sure he has done so much in the past positively, and maybe I hit some brick wall. He's going to shed more light on all that for us today. So once again, welcome to Atlantic Discuss. Kenneth, welcome to Atlantic Discuss.
Thank you, bro. It's always a pleasure being on your show.
Yes. We like you too, because, here, Atlantic Discuss, we embrace all facets of humanity, to disseminate positive news in a world where there's so many bad news. So we don't care. We just say the truth. We go for the truth. We give a voice to the unheard. We balance the information equation. We search and discuss the fact wherever it leads. We try and match the developed and the developed world based on issues that arise. We discuss politics, faith-based issues, business, what have you, anything that will help enhance humanity. We just go for the facts. We don't mortgage that. So Kenneth, as we know, want to discuss how the Nigerian diaspora can engage the government of Nigeria. So in our tradition, we go for the jugular straight. And I ask you, are the Nigerian diaspora contingent all over the world, based on everything I've said, population-wise and all that, are they well coordinated to engage the government of Nigeria? Because it's one thing to engage, it's one thing to be ready to engage. And I'm asking you, are they coordinated? And my reason is this. I see what the Jews are doing vis-a-vis Israel, the Irish, the Colombians, the Latinos, even though they are not a monopoly, so to say, because they too have their own issues. But they're engaging, especially in North America, especially with the American government, you understand. So is Nigeria, as with all their vast armada of diaspora contingent, because I know in so many continents of the world, the most educated migrating blocks, so most of these countries are Nigeria, especially in America where I reside. So are the diasporas ready? Because I also know you're a member of NIDO. I am a member too. And are we coordinated? Are we ready to engage?
Good question. There is no perfect work of art in the world. And there's no perfect human being anywhere in the world. And there's also no perfect organization anywhere in the world. Are we coordinated? Are we best coordinated? We can do much better. But that's not the issue. The issue is, are the federal government sincerely willing to engage the diaspora? That's the question. Because when you say, are we coordinated good enough, to engage the government, you ask yourself, is the federal government of Nigeria coordinated enough to engage diaspora? Is PDP coordinated enough to rule the country? Is APC coordinated good enough to rule the country? But trust them, they've been taking their time one after the other to rule the country. So the question is not whether we are good coordinated to engage the Nigerian government. The question is the Nigerian government sincerely ready to engage the diaspora?
I like what you're saying, but I've heard people in government, and I intend to bring somebody from the Nigerian side to talk about issues. I've reached out to some, but part of what I've heard is that the NIDO, which is supposed to coordinate the Nigerian diaspora contingent, you have NIDO in all the continent. That's Nigerian Diaspora Organization, which of course you know about. I was started by President Ambassador. What I've heard people in government say is that even NIDO is not ready. That's why I asked that question. And I know, like in North America, what you have in Nigerian diaspora Americas, there are factional issues. So the people I spoke to in government would say, we don't even know which group to recognize. You know, that's why I asked the question that, are the diaspora coordinated enough to engage? Because if you say government, are they ready to engage? Government is saying the diasporas are also not ready to engage. How do we meet halfway? There has to be a way, because the country is suffering for this. The diaspora contingent for every country in the world has made the difference. The Indians are a reference, a beneficiary of their diaspora contingent. So how long do we have to wait for government to get its act right? How long do we have to wait for diaspora to get its act right? There should be a middle ground, don't you think so?
Let's get the historical facts. Like you rightly mentioned, President Obasanjo, in his wisdom and his visionary leadership, saw the need to bring the diaspora together to engage the federal government by establishing the Nigerian Diaspora Organization, at least by government pronunciation. Bankole Balogun, the former speaker,
Dimeji
Bankole gave teeth to diaspora by act of parliamentary pronunciation. And so it continued. So for the past 20 years or plus, the Nigerians in diaspora have done everything they could, or they can do to engage the government. Thank God to the past president of Nigerians in diaspora, including some very, very great patriots like Dr. Collins Nweke, Alistair Shoyode, Professor Ejeogu. Then we have Professor Sam, and so on. There are so many of them that have engaged the government. Eventually, the issue of the diaspora coming together was fought for 20 years until we were able to get the Diaspora Commission under the leadership of Rita Orji, and then Senate President Bukola Saraki, and all the Diaspora House, his memory, great memory, Rose Oko. Now, what am I trying to say? They saw the reason that there's a need for the diaspora to come together. There's a need for the different groups in diaspora, whether culturally or socially and otherwise, to come together. And so by so doing, the Nigerian Diaspora Commission was passed. And that was about 3-4 years ago, thereabouts, 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, all what is required is to set up a Diaspora Commission board, which requires at least that each continental body of NIDO should produce 2 representatives each, from NIDO Africa to NIDO Europe to NIDO America, both the North and South America, to the NIDO Oceania and the rest of them. And I can tell you, because I was like you said, the longest serving NIDO president in Europe then, we took our time, we followed due process, and we're able to do this nomination and send to the federal government. All what they needed to do is to simply set up a board where they can have an effective engagement. I call it the Diaspora Assembly, where we can have the diaspora sitting down on the table, eyeball to eyeball with the government, and begin to bring out policy instrument that's going to help the diaspora. As we speak, from President Buhari to our new leadership in government, so to say, we have not been able to constitute that board. So when you say that the diasporans are not ready, and I asked you, have the government from their side, have they done the needful and now leave the diaspora to do the rest? The answer is no. So again, the essence of NIDCOM, the essence of Nigerian Diaspora Commission, is to help galvanize the diaspora. Of course, there's going to be issues. Now, when you bring on people together of different interests and throw in something in their middle, of course, they start struggling for it. And that's exactly what we're having in the diaspora. We have people who are sympathetic to one group or the other. And so because of that, they've been using the classical example of divide and rule. So that's the problem we have. So again, to answer your question, the diaspora are ready to engage the government. The government needs to come and stretch their hands so that we can sit down on the table. Of course, there's going to be issues with diaspora. Of course, I know the issue of the American NIDO. Of course, I know the issue of the African NIDO and the Asian NIDO and the rest of them. But again, the same thing also, the federal government have an issue. The election is still being contested as of today, but that does not stop the government or a functioning government in place. And so when we hear people saying because the diaspora are not organized, that's why they're not engaging, it's just an alibi. And I totally disagree with them.
All right, fantastic. But, when I started this program today with you, I said something about India. I said something about there are things that Nigerians consider obstacle, impediment to growth that India is already using as an advantage. Their diversity, their population, and what have you. Now, why am I saying this again? It looks like Nigerian problem, really, diaspora-wise, government-wise, is mostly hinged on religion and ethnic issues. I mean, for example, when Jonathan was president, you see people of Southeast origin rally around him, even in the diaspora, you understand? When Buhari was there, I don't think there are enough the northern contingent in diaspora cannot be compared to the southern contingent. But today now also, you can see with President Tinubu in power, a lot of those are Yoruba contingent too are trying to have some bragging rights now. If during Jonathan it happened, during Tinubu it happened, it's looking like a continuous thing, you understand? So the federal government maybe did not constitute the board the way they want to. Maybe they blame it on divide and rule here and there. But it does look like that tribal issues that persist inside the country, Nigeria, is still happening outside Nigeria. So one would expect that people that live in very developed societies, modern system, will actually eschew those things and forge a way forward. Don't you think so?
Absolutely, I agree with you. Like I said, we started by the discussion by saying that there's no perfect act of work anywhere in the world. And so Nigerians in diaspora are not from the sky, they're not from the Jupiter, they're from Nigeria. And so that DNA is still in us. But again, I will repeat myself like a broken record. The tax of NIDCOM, the tax of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, is to galvanize Nigerians. And I can say this for free. Anybody can disagree with us. During my chairmanship, when I have good people from all the continentals, we didn't have any divide in America then. They have a little bit of issue here and there. And we have a little bit of issue here and there also in Africa, but we're united. I mean, don't forget that the last 2-3 Diaspora Day, we organized in collaboration with NIDO. I made a presentation there, and the Continental Chair Africa, the Continental Chair Oceania, and the Continental Chair America, we all did presentation there. So we had a very good relationship with NIDCOM. I think the bone of contention or divergence is because we insisted that the Diaspora Commission should be established. That's the only thing we had. So at that point in time, we had all the possibility. We had all the possibility to establish the commission. And so if any serious government has taken advantage of that, if any serious government that want to, to put the diaspora in the forefront of, national policy planning, to tap into the wealth of the diaspora, they would have seized that opportunity, and that would have been long done. And again, I don't know how to put it, but if I will also remind you that part of the sins that we also committed is because we even have a true interpretation that the Nigerians in Diaspora Board should be constituted by all Nigerians in diaspora. We insisted that, well, we could find a mechanism to include all Nigerians. In fact, we must find a mechanism to include all Nigerians in diaspora. But the constitution and the bill says Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, NIDO. It was clear and simple. And even when we could not agree on the definition between the Nigerian diaspora and the board, we seek one of the brightest Nigerian lawyers, Femi Falana, a son, and he gave a clear interpretation, unambiguous interpretation, that the act specifically said Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, NIDO, period. So 3-4 years after, we're still here. And so if we cannot even agree on the principles guiding the constitution of the board of NIDCOM, for instance, why are we saying that the diasporans are not ready when some people cannot even correctly interpret what the act says? So you can see where the problem is coming from. So it's not fair when the ball is always shifted on the side of the diaspora. No, such issues are not one-way streets. There are two ways. So which means one side, the diaspora, yes, they must do better. I'm not going to tell you here to say that diaspora has done everything right. No, we still have to put our house in order. We still have a lot of work to do. But at least the most important thing is to start with the board. Start with the board, and we can begin to discuss how we can reform Nigerians in diaspora and make sure that we contribute our quota to national development.
Thank you. Thank you. To our viewers, you have been listening to Dr. Kenneth Bandi, who was the immediate past ADC senatorial candidate for ADC, like I said, in Delta North. He's currently the deputy chairman of the Diaspora Engagement for Africa Development Congress. That's the ADC. That's the third largest political party in Nigeria, as we are told. And over 28 years of diaspora leadership, experience. The longest serving Nigerian diaspora leader represented interest over 20 million Nigerians in diaspora. So, I mean, clearly you can see that, you know, he has it all cut out, you know, he has proved his mettle. That's why we brought him here. And we're talking about how the Nigerian diaspora can engage the government, you know, productively. So, and that's what we're talking about. So, Kenneth, let me ask you this. Now, the government has thrown it to you, you've thrown it back. Why will the government the government of Nigeria, the NIDCOM, why would they not want to constitute the board?
Well, I think you basically, give a background information. I don't want to, guess. I don't want to, say things that probably it's a kind of from the personal point of view that might not actually go down well with most of Nigerians and diaspora who probably see things differently. But the question is, why would a chairman of a board will not want the board to be constituted? Because I know that there are so many boards in Nigeria. I mean, from the last year to this year, basically all the boards are being constituted. And if a chairman of a board is a one-man chairman and have all the liberty in the world to appropriate whatever he wants to or she wants to appropriate without any oversight, do you think such individual will be more than willing to do otherwise? The answer is no. What I've heard all this while is that no, it's not the XYZ responsibility to constitute the board. It is the president that has the authority and the prerogative to constitute the board. I totally agree. But I think if there's a strong representation, that this commission would be well served if we have a solid board, because by so doing, we can have a very excellent gravitation of all the Nigerians in diaspora to be very effective. I think the president will listen to that, and they also do the needful. But so far, that's not the case, because the president cannot be everywhere. It's going to be based on the advices he's giving, what they think is necessary. But so far, I think we're having a feeling that the leadership of NIDCOM are not interested in getting the board constituted. And so they're advising the president otherwise.
Yeah, but I'm sure you agree with me that there are also people in NIDO that believe that there shouldn't even be an engagement with government in any way. That, I mean, I've heard people say it. I've read even on some of the chat groups where people say it's not compulsory to engage with government. I've listened to people that say, look, we need to engage directly with government. We need to go to the presidency. We need people that can take us straight into the villa, so that instead of going through the back door or going through third level or fifth level people, if we have anybody amongst us, or if we have somebody that can take us directly to the seat of power, let's take it. That's one opinion. Another school of thought is like, we're diaspora, we don't need to, I mean, anything government, they want to give us money will divide us. Let's just do whatever we want to do based on our professional expertise. Let it be merit-based and all that. How do we reconcile these two? Because they all seem to mean well, actually. You understand? So now the question is, how do we actually engage if even in the Nigerian diaspora contingent, which is NIDO, so to say, there are two divergent opinions, which of course are both patriotic in origin, but different in approach.
Simple. Do the right thing. Do what the law says. We don't even need to debate that.
I'm asking now, what does the law say?
The law says there's going to be a Nigerian Diaspora Commission, which has been passed by the National Assembly, signed into law by the president. Let's do what the law says and then think about reforming that later. I think, engaging in we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that, I think it's an alibi. That's a lazy man's argument. I listened to, again, I think I said that in your last program. I like that because I like that phrase very well. I think it was Sani, Sheikh Sani, who said that. Because a doctor performs a bad operation does not mean you call a carpenter to do the next operation. And I totally agree with him. Because we have people probably who have not done well in NIDO, because we have people who probably are of a different view. Because of that, we shouldn't do the right thing. No, the right thing says there is a law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which has said that there's going to be a Nigerian Diaspora Commission, and it's going to be done by NIDO and represented by the government and the rest of them. Let's respect what the law says. And we can, of course, we respect the view of the minority, which is all, you can say the majority, as it depends on how you want to classify it. We respect that. But let's do what the essence of any law in any country is where we are confused as to which road to follow. When we are, in a very, very serious patriotic, like you said, patriotic debate, which way to go, then let us look at what the law says. And once we follow what the law says, we stand a chance of not making a big mistake. Let's follow the law, and then let's begin to talk about how we can think whether it's even needful to do that. Sorry to digress a little bit. It's just the same thing with the diaspora voting. And people are saying, no, it's not necessary for us to. I mean, we've not even counted the vote in Nigeria. Why are we worrying about counting the diaspora? I get those arguments. I get it. I hear them loud and clear. But first, the right to vote is a fundamental right to some extent. Some people will argue it's not a fundamental right, but I think it's a fundamental right as a Nigerian to vote and be voted for. So let's use that right first before we can begin to talk about the challenges of whether it's going to help or not, whether it's going to be positive or negative. So again, when we are not sure which route to go, let's rely on the Constitution.
Okay, I was going to ask you a completely different question, but now that you mentioned diaspora voting, I'm going to go into that. So do you think if the NIDCOM board is properly constituted, do you think there's a chance that we could see diaspora voting in future? Because if you look at it technically, holistically, even empirically, you discover that when they passed the last electoral law, the 2022 electoral law as amended, the Senate, the lower and upper house, voted against diaspora voting. So I was going to ask you that, how do we engage? But you did mention about diaspora voting. So constituting the board, the assembly, the parliament, whatever you call the diaspora assembly, can it make diaspora voting see the light of day? Because a lot of African countries, off my hand, I can count like 5 that their diaspora contingent votes at their election, and it's actually no big deal. What's your take?
Yes, I think, I mean, I'm not a suitor. I can't wave a magic wand and say it is smoking gun, but it's definitely going to help. That we did not, that the diaspora voting did not pass. It's a result of, poor lobby. We do not have enough lobby power to do that. We did not concentrate all our energy in one place. And I think that when we have a board, when we have a representative of Nigerians in diaspora sitting there, hopefully patriotic ones who are going to defend the interests of the diaspora, they have the mandate, they have the constitutional mandate and the backing to begin to engage our senators, to begin to engage our representative in a very sincere, open argument and debate to show why it is necessary for the diaspora to vote. And I think when we do that, we might be able to win some minds, which will help. As the continental leader of Nigerians in diaspora worldwide, which is a rotational chairmanship. I've engaged Honorable Rita Oji then. I've engaged Senator Rose Oko. I've engaged also Mrs. Tolu Shola. I hope I'm not murdering the name. If I do, please forgive me. Who was then the House Chairman in diaspora after Rita Oji. I've engaged all of them, and the issue of the diaspora voting was on the table. Also, Mr. Bolaji, who was then the Senate chairman, Bolaji, I'm trying to remember the second name now, Abayomi, I hope I'm not murdering also the name. We sat down in a sincere engagement, and I can tell you, probably certain things I'm not going to speak in front of the camera, but I can tell you that we have a lot of rep members who are sincerely worried about diaspora voting, who think that if they pass diaspora voting, that they're going to lose their seats, who think that the diaspora, because of their population, they're going to come and overrun them, and most of them are going to. So they are not ready to do that. That is the pure and simple truth of it. But again, like I said, we could have, an engagement where we, they come up with a formula, whether it's going to be okay, that, this, I don't want to predict anything, but at least start talking, start, sincere discussion, and to see exactly where we're going to. So I think what we are lacking is an advocacy and a lobby group, powerful lobby group within and outside that will be able to discuss this issue with our representatives.
Okay, my next question is, how do we engage? Now, and I'm going to rephrase it, because you mentioned something about lobby, participation, engage. Those are words you've used, fantastic, and it's applicable to how do we engage. So now, can NIDO engage lobby without being on the board of NIDCOM? Can they, what I'm trying to say is that NIDO is very, very cohesive and united, can they still not be influential enough to achieve all those deliverables?
They can. I think most people might not know it. Like I said, I gave credit to all the past leaders of NIDO, and I mentioned all their names. I think I omitted somebody like John George and the rest of them. They actually put flesh, policy suggestions and so forth and so on to diaspora voting. And to the best of my knowledge, I think there was actually a case won by also Falana, SAN Sam. He won a case that the federal government must actually engage diaspora and actually pass out a policy to allow the Nigerians in diaspora to vote. We didn't follow it up. As a matter of fact, during my tenure, we wanted to follow that issue up, and we actually engaged in following it up. We didn't go very far. But what I was trying to mention is that we have one individual, I'm trying to remember the name now, Ade, I have forgotten the second name, Prince Ade. We might disagree with him, but he did a fantastic job by setting up a lobby group that actually led to putting the diaspora voting to vote at the parliament. That actually led to the voting it down. But that the fact that we have first and second reading and even come to voting is a success. And so all what we need is to continue from that. And you can imagine if some group of individuals could do that, liaising with a Nigerian diaspora, the biggest, the largest diaspora organization in the world, you could understand that a lot of things can move. So yes, we will continue. In fact, there's going to be a program very soon. I got a letter of invitation from Nido Africa, where we are going to discuss about diaspora voting. And the term which I love is that they call it the active and persistent advocacy. And so I love that. And so we're not going to do only one time and run away, but being continuously active will make a difference. I mean, Rome was not built in a day, according to white philosophers. So we should not give up. We should continue to engage Nigeria. We are Nigerians. Nobody's more Nigerians than anybody, whether they're in government or outside government. So we should continue to talk and continue to engage our representative. They say we the people elected them. It's not them that elected themselves. So we must continue to engage them to tell them what we want.
So now, it's always good to put a timeline on deliverables. It's like we're going around in circles, and all that. Now, I asked, how do we engage? Let's assume, for example, that we have all we want, that the board is set up and all that. We've seen how the Jews, Israelis, so to say, the Irish, even recently the Ukrainians, you saw Colonel Vindman, the guy, half American, half Ukrainian, how he helped, forge during when the war started. Thousands of Ukrainians are now in America, refugees and all that, So now my question is this. If we have all we want, those of us in diaspora, the NIGERIAN board, do we have ready-made policy document to present to Nigerian government? Because I'll tell you why I'm saying this. It is clear to everybody, and it's clear that the way politics is played in Nigeria, that people based in Nigeria do not have as much freedom of speech as much as those in the diaspora. You understand? Vis-a-vis, they can use the police or judiciary or something to harass you. But so it also looks like maybe those playing politics, and this does not apply to just one political party. It applies to all political parties. Yeah, it does look like maybe they're scared that diaspora, if they vote, for example, it will be free and fair. You understand? That kind of thing. So, but having said that, do the Nigerian diaspora organization, do they have ready-made policy document to present to the government of the day? Because where I'm really going is that it does look like our constitution is not really working. A lot of things are not working in Nigeria. You understand? So, and could it be that the government is just scared? Whoever is the government is scared of the diaspora contingent because they'll bail the cats, they'll go for the jugular and all that. Because based on what you said, if you set up the NIGERIAN board and diaspora contingent, 2 per continent are represented, it's going to solve all problems. Are you really sure it will solve all problems?
No, again, you're asking too much.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
No, thinking that the Diaspora Commission will solve all the problems. I mean, the federal government with the thousands of ministers and SAs and SSAs and the commission, they've not solved the problem. So they ask for no. But I think it's a step in the right direction. Like you rightly said, is Nigerian Constitution working? I said it in your program the other time, and I can repeat myself. The Nigerian Constitution is a fraud. No two ways about it. We are hoping that we should be able to have people who want to, critically look at it and begin to refine that. People can argue that it was imposed on them. That's what we have now. Okay, that's what we have for now, but we need to change it. We need to begin to work to refine that. So that's important. Now, will the Diaspora Commission change the problem? No. We are going to have practically only about 8 representatives from a 12-man board, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's not going to be the work, but at least it's the starting point. It's the starting point to begin to discuss. You've just made example. Every successful country in the world that is basically begin to catch up with development are being pushed by the diaspora. And so why would Nigerians be different? I think I said it in the last program, that the missing link from Nigerian consistent development and taking advantage of all the intellectuals they have is sincerely engaging the diaspora. And what is missing is the sincerity of engagement. Like you said, I don't know how correct it is, but I know that they kind of push some diaspora policy to us over when I was the chairman, when I was almost going out as the chairman of NIDO Europe. We had a diaspora policy that was put together from NITCOM and the International Organization of Migration. But again, I remember that we were given about 1 week to make an input, and I think that is basically a joke because 1 week was not enough to make an input. But eventually, they came out with a policy. So I assume they have a diaspora policy, I assume. But even at that, with a board, one can also review. No constitution, no policy is cast in stone. We can begin to review that to see what is good, to see what is applicable, to see what is necessary, and to see what is to change. So it's a process. Nation building is a process. Institutional building is a process. What is important is how we should start.
Fantastic. Okay, this one, I'm very passionate about it. I look at public office holders in Nigeria, both appointed and elected, and I discovered, we said it the last time also, that quite a chunk, when I say a chunk, I'm even thinking maybe about 50 or more % of them have some semblance of diasporaism in them. Whether they schooled here, they are resident, they have dual nationality or something. And a lot of them do get, so it might not be fair to say that even though there's no NIGERIAN board, it might not be fair to say the government is not considering, because a lot of people have been brought from diaspora home to be commissioners. Some have won election to be senators, to be what you call House of Rep, the lower Congress. Some have been ministers, as a matter of fact. They brought a lot of people from America, Europe, even from the Middle East in the past. And it does look like, with all the offing and puffing when they come, maybe not all of them, but it does look like about 80–90% of them, when they come home, they even perform below those that are domiciled in Nigeria, making it look like you can't beat them, join them. The diasporaism in them does not really show. I think your response that day was that because people live in Germany or in Los Angeles does not make, you can, how did you say, either you pass through the university or the university pass through you. I think you said something in that periphery. So my question really is that a lot of diasporans have been given the opportunity, and it is fair to say that at least 80% of them really disappointed. So what are we really sure that the diaspora can make the difference? Because there are stories in the past that, okay, the government gave money to some people, to some diasporans, and they fought over it and all that, So will the diasporans replicate the examples of the country that domicile if given the opportunity? What's your take on that?
Well, we'll repeat ourselves again this time around. We've actually answered partly part of the question. Because we appointed, some lawyers to become the Minister of Justice, and the minister didn't do very well, does that nullify that all the lawyers cannot do well? And the answer is no. Because you appointed an engineer as a Minister of Works, and at the end of the day, our road is they are even worse than when the minister came to office. Would that nullify all the engineers in Nigeria? The answer is no. And so if you have few diasporans who have been to Nigeria, but they have not performed very well, that does not nullify that the diaspora cannot do very well. But moreover, what I actually wanted to say, without going into the larger diaspora, because everybody has a right of claim to diaspora if they have stayed 1 or 2 days in diaspora, so we can't contest that. But the fact is that we have people who claim to be diasporans, and they bring them into XYZ government positions, saying, yeah, they are representing the diaspora. Who are you representing? How many organizations have you represented in Europe? Have you been a member of any diaspora group? Have you served? What position did you serve? What was your antecedent when you served? What was your result? These are the questions we need to ask, because you pick people from the diaspora who has no connection to any diaspora organization, not necessarily NIDO, where they have not been scrutinized, where they have not been meant to give account of their stewardship. And so they have nobody to answer to, they have no constituency to answer to, and they just pick them because they are from the diaspora, because they are brothers and sisters, from XYZ ministers and SAs and the rest of them. And so they get in there and say, yeah, look at one of the diaspora brothers who cannot perform. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't explain that, why it is their right to pick anybody. But please, when you want to, engage a diaspora, and take a diaspora that has really served the diaspora, that has a track record of service, so that when such individuals is being castigated, they can say, okay, look at where he's coming from. Look at his constituency. They supported him. They defended him. At the end of the day, this is where he's doing. But they are not doing that. So picking up everybody from diaspora and say that, yeah, look at your friends from diaspora, they're not performing well. It's like telling us that the Minister of Justice, the last Minister of Justice, or the 10th Minister of Justice, or whichever Minister of Justice did not do very well, although he was a lawyer. We can't say that.
Let me rephrase, okay? Do you think it will be better if, for example, the body is well constituted and the government of the day, for example, needs 6 people, for ministerial appointment, and they come to NIDO and, okay, NIDO, please give us somebody for Attorney General, give us a cybersecurity expert, give us a medical doctor with pediatric experience, give us a civil engineer that has for great knowledge in mega infrastructure, give us a construction engineer that has background in rail and all that, give us a geologist that knows about this and that with so many years experience. Do you think that will suffice? Do you think that could help?
It could help. It should help. I'll give you an example. During my chairmanship again, when they were looking for people to go for constituent assembly, to send, I think they asked NIDO Europe to send 2 representatives. What we did was that we were not bounded. We were not looking only within NIDO. We said, let us look at Nigerians in Europe who have a credible record, who have something to show in Europe that can basically serve Nigerians' interests and serve the diaspora interests. We took 1 person outside NIDO, 1 person within NIDO and 1 person outside NIDO, because we felt that this person had a very track record in the diaspora. Unfortunately, it did not pass through, because before we could finish that, the information we had from Nigeria is that, yeah, we are fighting ourselves, we couldn't decide. So because of that, they've gone and appointed other people. Again, an alibi, lazy man argument. But just to say yes, if we have a diaspora commission that truly represents the interests of the diaspora, they could set up a think tank, a committee to do a selection within the diaspora. And the important thing is that when such selections are made, that the individual is not only answerable to Nigerians in Nigeria and the federal government of Nigeria, it's also answerable to the diaspora. And so we will make sure that such individuals fulfill what is being sent there through many mechanisms. Probably he has a British nationality or American nationality. Probably his companies or his ex-companies are here. Probably his families are here and the rest of them. And you can imagine what is going to happen to all those interests if he's not doing what he's supposed to do. I mean, the pressure will be so much. Probably I might be naive to think that way. But the fact is that we have not tried that. Let's have the commission first. Let us be given an assignment and let us see whether we are going to fulfill that assignment. And if we do not do that, then we can now come back and say, okay, you have the opportunity, but you miss it. But so far, like you said, we've been going round and round. What if? What if they do this? What if they do that? Let's do it and see the outcome.
Fantastic. We're still talking to Dr. Kenneth Bandy, erudite scholar, man of the people, who's always here. He's still in court because he was a senatorial candidate for Delta North, so he might just be senator in waiting.
By the way, the court has actually given a verdict on last Thursday.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I have officially sent my congratulatory message to Ned Wongo.
Oh, fantastic. That's good. You have a good heart. You're a good man. So that actually helps me into the next question. Like, we think in the same direction. So if the Supreme Court, for example, rules that, okay, with all the huffing and puffing, the dampness in the land, the ethnic, conflagration here and there, instability, because it looks like there's a lot of instability. People feel cheated, disenfranchised. If the Supreme Court gives its verdict and they say, okay, President Bola Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. So, don't you think that's enough for everybody to come together, rally around the president, and look, let's find a way to take Nigeria forward? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this, because it does look like Nigeria is really battered. Nigeria is not looking very good from outside, from inside. It does look like. Do you think if after that judgment, you just told us now that you congratulated after the court gave a judgment on Thursday? So do you think we should move forward, even if a very large chunk of the population do not feel happy with the final verdict?
Yes, I think so. As a matter of fact, like I told you, we have the tribunal sitting in Asaba, Delta State. challenging Netswoko victory. Immediately he was pronounced the winner. We might not agree with the judgment, but I think that's what the rule of law should be. That's what democracy should be. I think the following day I congratulated him. And I pledged my support to work with him to make sure that our senatorial district is well represented. And good enough, he acknowledged that, and we will be meeting soon, hopefully, to share more ideas on that. And if Supreme Court affirms the election of Bola Tinubu, I will be one of the first person to call for his support because we need to move on. But that does not excuse that we should not have a robust opposition. Look through them in the finger and make sure that they do what Nigerians want them to do. And hopefully that in the next 4 years, that Nigeria have the opportunity to make correction or affirm whatever he's doing. So I totally agree with you. Not doing that is calling for anarchy, as simple as that. Because the question is, which way do we go from there? If we're not recognizing that or not accepting that, then how do we go forward? Of course, nobody is calling for a military takeover. So if the Supreme Court affirms that, I will be the first person to send a congratulatory message and I will rally around to support him.
Good, you're a good sportsman. You've always been. So for those that feel that maybe they were robbed, deprived, I think we all agree to a very large extent that INEC did not perform very well. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, for an election that got 350 billion plus other subventions from other bodies vis-a-vis the EU, the Americans and all that. So the next question is, if we let Sleeping Dog Lie, for example, I will move ahead, you understand? Does that give the impetus to INEC to do better next time or continue in the old ways?
You said something a few minutes ago, and I agree with you, that there's a lot of instability in the country. There's a lot of anxiety in the country. That's the first time in the history of Nigeria that after election and the president of the nation has been sworn in, that we are still having such a situation. It just means that it's no longer business as usual. And I think if we manage to, to survive this, hopefully and prayerfully we will, everybody will know that it's not business as usual. I mean, I've been following up some tribunals, in recent days, and I see so many reversals with the tribunal for House of Rep members. That's a good sign. And that's a good sign that at least, because why do we have these anxieties and why we have this suspense in the country? Is because people think that the judiciary is the hope of the last man. And if people feel that justice is not being served, and that's exactly what you feel, there's an uneasiness in the air that is currently, enveloping our country. So we have a lot of reversals, from the House of Rep and other state House of Assembly, which is a good thing because people will believe that they could go to court if they find out that there's irregularities and they have the hope of the courts, reversing that decision. So I think INEC, I'm not going to say that INEC has learned their lesson. No, we're going to say that INEC should be held responsible. As a matter of fact, irrespective of, I'm not trying to be a populist, but if you remember what Yaradua, his blessed memory, did, he accepted and acknowledged that the election was not fair. He acknowledged that the election was not free, but he called for the opposition to come together and let them work together to see how they can fix that. And they probably tried to also to fix the electoral system that actually give step by step to whichever reforms we have. And so it would have been nice that people are bold enough to come out to say, yes, I agree that this was not done very well. I agree that we could have done better. Let us see, how we can cross this hurdle, then begin to see how we can. I said in one of the programs that I attended, that if I were Bola Tinubu, if I was elected the president of Nigeria, and they declared that the first thing I would have done is to fire the electoral officer. I'll fire INEC, INEC chairman, for spending so much billions of naira and bringing us to where we are today, number one. And number two, I will set up a constitutional review panel immediately. And number three, I will form a government of national unity. By so doing, you will bring down the tension in the land, you will unite the people, and we'll begin to look for solutions. Because with those three things in place, it means that in the next 4 years, we are looking for solutions that will probably put us on a better footing to conduct the next election, and that will give hope to people that at least serious step has been taken, that consequences has been identified and being pursued, so to say. But when it's not done, and when you see some ministers who are actually on EFCC lists being appointed ministers, then you wonder, what are we really doing? And then These are part of the problem. Anyway, like I said, the German says, hope died last. So we'll continue to see how we go from here.
Brilliant, brilliant. You're always on point. Okay, quickly, let me digress a bit. Now, I've read from some newspapers, except from people here and there, that the current president is making too many tribal appointments. It does look like Yorubas, his ethnic stock, my ethnic stock are getting more appointment than usual. And responses have been, yeah, when the Northerners were there, they did the same thing, and they've always done that blatantly. Chief of army staff, chief of this staff, custom this and that. And even though it's happening now again, nobody should raise an eyebrow, because after all, it's done by Turn Nigeria Limited. What's your take on that?
Well, I've not followed all the appointments, religiously, to be able to, to comment on that. So I will basically not offer my opinion on that. If it is so, of course, it is condemnable, and then it's not acceptable. But like I said, I have not been able to do a total review as to be able to take a position on that. A few appointments I've seen, the chief of naval staff coming from the east, if I'm not mistaken, and I think there seems to be a fair early appointment, for all I can say, a fair early appointment. But I can't, like I said, I don't have a total overview of the current total appointment, so I won't be able to comment on that. But if it's the case, there's no justification to say it's done by turn, and because it is done by other people that should, then it is totally not acceptable.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth Gbandy, for coming to Atlantic Discuss. He has spoken well, spoken like a statesman as usual. He has said unity. The president should embrace everybody, whatever the judgment is, whoever becomes president after the Supreme Court. Like Gowon did, no victor, no vanquish. It is one Nigeria. The ship has to sail in the same direction. Whether you're a diaspora or domicile in Nigeria, the ship must sail in the same direction. There's only one Nigeria. We cannot blame it on diversity, ethnicity, or religion. India has done it. They are larger than us. We are 200 million. They are 1.2 billion, so they've done it. So thank you, Kenneth, for coming. We're going to call it a wrap there. He has spoken well. The diaspora contingent has a lot of work to do. The federal government has a lot of work to do. We have to synergize, come together. There's so many areas where we can work together. The ship of state needs to be well lubricated, and it cannot be done by just the president or the senators. It's a task that must be done by every Nigerian, irrespective of tribe, creed, or religion. So thank you, Kenneth. Thank you once again. And to our viewers, thank you for being loyal. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to come back again with you to another topic that will, apply and be applicable to whatever is happening vis-a-vis Africa, Europe, or what have you. So thank you. Take care. God bless you all. Bye.
Bye.